Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Simon, and in this video I'm going to cover the Unix Administration grade lab called Installing and Updating Software. Like I say in all my videos, I am making these videos so that you can prepare for your tests coming up. This is a lab that's already past due, so you can't get any more marks for it, but I wanted to do this lab and show you how to complete it so that you feel very confident when you go into your test, and hopefully you're going to get an amazing mark when you complete your test. I do want to stress that you have to make sure that you do the practice labs and try the grade lab on your own before watching this video, just because it's the only way that you're really going to benefit from any of this. But like I said, I'm going to go through the grade lab anyway. I'm going to explain as much as I can so that you feel extremely informed on how to do everything and why we're doing everything. And you'll see, this one's not bad. I enjoyed this one. And the one thing that I will say is the very first thing that we have to do is install man pages. And even though I don't believe it asks you to do that on your tests, it's actually the first thing I do on every Unix test now. Every single time that teacher gives me a test and they say you can start now, the first thing I do, even though it kind of wastes time, is I install the man pages because I just think the man pages are great and you're going to use them a ton, and you never know when you are going to find a command that you have to use that you don't have any idea how to use it. So learning how to install anything is really, really important. And the other thing that you need to know before we get into this lab is that you need a couple files. So obviously the first file is the OVA file because you want fresh copies of W01 and SO1. But you're also going to need the DVD ISO for now on because you're going to install a lot of services on SO1. But SO1 doesn't have an internet connection. So when you install software on SO1, it needs somewhere to reference these files and get these files from, and it's going to be from this DVD ISO. So make sure you have that ready because we are going to definitely be using that. So whenever you have these ready, let's start. We'll start again with part A, but let's get our fresh copies of W01 and SO1 because we will need fresh copies. We're going to make sure that if you have anything in here from previous labs, you delete them. Import appliance. Get your fresh copy of W01 and SO1 from the OVA file. Click next. Use whatever settings you like, but basically I use 2 for my CPU and 2048 for my RAM on the W01 virtual machine, and that's it. I leave SO1 the way it is, and when you're ready, just click import and wait for it to import. Like I said, this is a really good lab. All of them are really good, I guess, but the reality is when it comes to installing and updating, this one is, I kind of think it's kind of fun. I think that this one's not too bad. The reality is what you're going to do is mostly going to be part A, B, and C. That's going to be the stuff that's new to you. This stuff is just testing performance, which doesn't really have much to do with installation of anything, but doesn't matter. You still will find it's kind of useful down the road. But in terms of this, the hard parts are basically A, B, and C. D is just basically going through the motions. It tells you exactly what to type and everything, so this part isn't hard at all. Once you get your virtual machines ready, you can start them. If you don't have a great computer, start them one at a time so you don't slow down your computer, but I can do both so that we can not waste time. Alright, and while that loads, what we're going to do is install man pages first. There's a lot of ways that you can do it, and if you go to the practice lab, you're going to see a ton of stuff here. The reality is you can do this if you want because this does tell you how to install all this stuff, but I like using yum install because it's so much easier in my opinion. So if you use yum install and then name whatever you want to install, for example man, you will be able to install it without having to do all of this. So this is the easiest way to do it. It's the quickest way to do it. I suggest you do that on your actual test. Use yum install whenever you can. Now I have W01 here. I'm just going to minimize them for now. I'm just going to focus on SO1. SO1 is loaded. Let's just log in. There we go. And first and foremost, you have to remember that when you use yum install and you say man, for example, because we have to do that, it's going to look everywhere to see if it can find the man pages basically to install. But remember, SO1 doesn't have the internet, so even though it looks like everything's good to go, when you say yes, you're going to get a bunch of errors, and that's normal. What you need to do is make sure you get that DVD ISO mounted. So to mount that ISO, first thing you're going to do is click on Devices up here, go to Optical Drives, and if it's not here, you're going to have to choose Disk Image and find it on your computer. So mine's right there, and you just want to check, make sure that it has a check mark saying that it can be used now. Once you have that, you can say mount dev CD-ROM. So if I say df, you'll see that we have the CentOS DVD there. Now this is a directory, so it doesn't matter what DVD or what CD image I put in there, it's always going to say CentOS DVD. But what I can tell you is that you can check to see the contents of it, so you know exactly what you're using by saying ls CentOS. So if you look here, we have like a bunch of RPMs and stuff like that. So we know that we have our ISO, see, CentOS 6. We know that it is definitely going to be this guy that we're referring to whenever we go into the CentOS directory. And you'll see why I'm talking about this later on. But now that we have it mounted, now we should be able to say yum install man. We'll get the same prompt. We're going to say yes, but this time it'll work. So there we go. It's installed. And we can test it out by saying man ls, for example, and there we go. Man is working on SO1 now. So that is really, really good. So that's part A done. That was pretty easy, right? Just remember every single time, because this is what I had trouble with. I kept on forgetting that I had to mount this DVD. So when it wasn't working, if it's not working for you, remember, check this, make sure it's checked off, and then make sure that you've mounted it. And if you want to make sure, you just have to type in df and check, and we'll see that's mounted. Okay, time to go to part B, guest editions on SO1. So we're going to install the VirtualBox guest editions on SO1 and test our work. So the very first thing is we have to install the GCC compiler and kernel-devel packages. So where we're going to get that is from this DVD ISO. So make sure it's still loaded, it's still mounted, and basically use yum install GCC again. Okay, so instead of man, we said GCC this time. Say yes, and we'll see that it succeeds. Great. So now let's do yum install, and it tells us we're going to do kernel devel, and there we go. It's going to install. It takes a little bit of time, but basically these two things are the things we have to install, and we're going to get them from the DVD ISO. Once you complete that, now we have to mount the guest edition CD image. So what that means is we have to unmount this guy and mount this guy. Alright, so how we're going to do that is we're going to say umount, and I hate that it's umount and not unmount. I don't know why it's umount, but I don't like it. It should be unmount. But just say umount, and you can say CentOS DVD. If we say df, we'll see it's no longer there, so that's good. If you go to devices up here, just uncheck it. So all I did was click on it, so it unchecks it. And then click on insert guest edition CD image. You're not going to see anything in here that's going to tell you that it's there. But if you mount dev CD-ROM again, the way we did initially, and you say df, we'll see that this directory is present now. And it looks, again, like it says CentOS. You're going to think, oh, that's the DVD, but I unchecked it. Remember what I told you? Just ls the contents of that folder. And you're going to see now there's no RPMs anywhere. It's all VBox this, VBox that. So you know that the CentOS DVD directory is referring to this guest edition CD image. So that's perfect. So now that we have that, all we have to do is run the script and then reboot. Okay, so that's pretty self-explanatory. What we're going to do is clear, go into the CentOS folder, and then say /vbox Linux editions.run and hit enter. And this will take some time, so let it take its time. It says it's going to take a while, but if you did everything that I just did, it will work. Eventually it's just going to go back to the normal prompt where you are, and we'll see that very soon, and then we can reboot it. And once we reboot it, what we're going to do is we're going to test our work by mounting a shared folder. So basically we have to define a shared folder named share files. So we're going to do that in VirtualBox. And then we're going to have to create this directory on SO1 so that we can mount the shared files to it. We're going to make sure that it doesn't mount automatically at boot, but we have to keep in mind that by the end of this lab, if we've rebooted the machine a couple times, we have to keep on mounting it so that it's available when we're grading the script. Alright, so those are the important things to know. We can see right here it is done, so we can move forward. So let's do that. So let's shut down -R to reboot and let it do its thing. It won't take too long. But yeah, going back to this, we have to define a shared folder named shared_files using the VBox management GUI. That just means this guy down here. There's a little folder that we're going to use. This shared folder can now be accessed from SO1 using the VirtualBox shared folder file system driver we just built and installed. We're going to mount it. Here's a tutorial. I'm not going to click on that. I'm just going to show you how to do it. And once again, don't mount the system automatically at boot, but make sure it is mounted when you run the grading script. So here we go. Let's log in. Root admin pass. Now if I say df, just so you know this, you're going to see that the guest edition CD is not mounted. So nothing is mounted right now, just so you know. We're going to create a folder, and they want it to be called MNT shared files. That's what it says right here. Enter. So that's ready to go. Let's right click on this little folder right here and click shared folder settings. Click add and choose anywhere. It doesn't matter, on your desktop, wherever. I'm going to say this folder because I know the two files that are in here. And I'm going to change the folder name to be called shared files. And I'm not going to click any of these because we don't want to make anything auto mount or permanent. So say OK. And now we have to mount it. So how you mount it is you say mount-t vbox sf, and then you're going to type in shared files, because that's what we called that folder that I'm going to be using on my desktop. And then we're going to reference that mounting directory, which is mount shared files. And when I hit enter, I didn't get any errors, so that's usually a good thing. But let's just check. Let's just say ls mnt shared files, and we can see that I have my OVA file and my ISO, so it works. So everything is good, it's ready to go. We can now move on from part B and go to part C. So part C says building software from source. This is where you're going to see that sometimes in Linux, even if you use yum install, you will still have to do things where you'll have to basically unzip something and build it yourself using instructions that they give you. So what we're going to do is we have to get this netperf software from eLearn. So I'm going to use W01 to do that. So let's log into W01, user pass, and we'll go into Firefox. And what I will say while this is loading is just make sure when you're installing this, you're installing it as root. Because you're going to see right here, it says repeat these steps on W01. So everything we do right here is going to be done again on W01 as well, not just SO1. But if you're Alice, you're going to have trouble doing this. But this is the hardest part. This stuff, like I said, is going to be easy because it tells you exactly what to do, and then you just have to run the grading, but it's really, really simple. Like I said, this lab isn't actually too bad, in my opinion. So let's go to UNIX Administration. Let's go to Dropbox. Let's go down to installing. Oh, it's not here. I might have to do it from the actual lab itself. Okay. There it is. So let's save it. Now I can close this and we can open up terminal. Alright, there we go. Now let's go into downloads, and what we're going to do is we're going to send this over to SO1. So we're going to say SCP netperf root of SO1 at the IP address of SO1, which is 10.1.1.20, and we're going to put it in the temp folder. And we're going to say admin pass, and it sent it. Now you're going to be like, wait a minute, this is a zip file. We don't have the ability to do zip on SO1. Well, now you do, because we know that if we're going to install anything, we just need that DVD ISO, and that should have the zip and unzip features, so we can just install it ourselves and do it ourselves on SO1 now. We don't have to unzip it on W01 anymore. So what we're going to do is this. Go to optical drives and load CentOS 6.6, that DVD ISO. Once again, mount it. Perfect. Now say yum install zip. Say yes. And installed it. But we also need yum install unzip. Say yes. And there we go. We now have zip and unzip, so we can zip things and we can unzip things whenever we want. We don't have to rely on W01 anymore. So this is really, really useful as well. So let's now go into temp. Let's clear this. Let's make sure that we have that netperf, which we do. It's zipped, so we're going to have to unzip it. Okay, it unzipped everything. So if I say ls now, I'm going to see we have a folder now called netperf. So let's go into that. And now if I look at the contents of this, I'm going to see a ton of things. Now it tells us right here, once we've got netperf and we've transferred it over and we've unzipped it, we have to read the install file and follow the directions carefully. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read this install file. I'm going to say cat install. I'm going to pipe that over to more. And there we go. So there's a lot of information that you have to read, but I'm going to show you the quick way of doing it. You're going to just basically scroll down here. And it's going to say the very first thing that we have to do is type ./configure. Then we have to type make, then we have to type make check, then make install, and then make clean. So we're going to do that on here, and we're also going to do that on W01. So let's do that. So very first thing that we're going to do is we are going to say ./configure, enter, and it's going to do its thing. Okay, good. Now we're going to say make, just make on its own. That's its thing. Now we're going to say make check. Did its thing. Make install. And then finally, make clean. Now there's so much information, you have no idea what's happening, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to check to see if this works. So let's clear, and how we're going to check to see if this works is we're going to say netperf-V, and we got a netperf version 2.6.0, which is perfect, so that seems to be working. And we'll also try this one as well. I'm going to say netperf-, and that's good too. It's showing us how to use netperf. So that worked, which means everything works on SO1. Now we have to do it for W01. So we can minimize this, go into W01. We're already in downloads, but remember what I said, you have to be root. So don't do this as Alice, because it's not going to work. So sudo into root. Alright, so now I'm root, and we're going to go into downloads. Let's just make sure that that file is there. I don't see it. So the reason why I don't see it is I'm going to exit. I'm in Alice and I want to pretend I'm root as Alice. So say SU. Up here, you'll see I said SU dash. If you say SU dash, you're going to say I want to be root. If you say SU without the dash, it means I'm Alice, but I'm pretending to be root, so I can do everything on Alice as root. So that's the only difference, just so you know. So we're going to say SU, enter, admin pass, we're in downloads, let's say LS, and now we can see that file. So we're going to say unzip, netperf, it unzipped everything for us. Let's clear that, ls. Now we can see that there's an actual directory, so let's get into that directory. And now we're just going to do the same steps to install everything because we already know how to do that. It's going to be /configure. Then make check, make install, and then make clean. I didn't get any errors and it looks good, but we'll just test it. So let's just clear, say netperf -V. We get the version, which is great, netperf $, and we get how to use it. So that looks all good. So I think that we're done and we can now move on to part D. So part D is now just testing the network performance. This is telling you how to do it word for word or step by step. So what you're going to do is stop the firewall on W1, and this is the command we're going to type in. So I'm just going to say service IP tables stop. Okay, everything looks okay. On W1 we're going to start net server. So we're going to say net server -P, and we're going to say port 9317. Okay, so it's starting something. We don't know what it is, but that's okay. We're going to just make sure that it's running. So EFL grep net server. So we see it's running, so that's good. So on SO1 now, what we're going to do is let's clear this, and let's say netperf -H W01 port 9317 -F G, and we're going to redirect it into temp, and we're going to call it test_A, and we wait. The most important thing that I would suggest doing is when you do this, once it's done, check the file to make sure that there's some kind of output in that file. So see how it's done? What I would do is say cat temp test A, and we can see there is something that was printed, so that's good. We can now shut down both SO1 and W01. So we're going to say shutdown -H now, and then shutdown -H now. Now remember, we just shut these down. Up here it says make sure that the share is mounted when you run the grading script. So we're gonna have to make sure we do that before we run the grading script again, but for now let's just keep going until the very end and then we'll do that. So what it wants us to do, it wants us to change our network cards to have an adapter type of para-virtualized network. So I'll show you how to do that. You're going to go into SO1, go into settings, go to network, go to advanced, and then change adapter type from this guy, which is the third guy from the top, down to the last. Say OK. For W01, let's do the same thing. Network, bring it down, and let's do it for both adapters. It doesn't really tell you to do it for both adapters, but we're going to do it for both adapters anyway. And then restart them. What they're trying to show you here, and it's not really important that you know this, but it's just trying to show you that this netperf can basically show that your bandwidth is, you know, different depending on the adapter that you're using for your network. But again, it's all you're really learning from this actual lab is installing and updating software. That's pretty much it. There's not much more to it than that. So in terms of this stuff, don't worry about memorizing any of this netperf stuff. I don't even know if you'll see it on your test, but just letting you know. Alright, let's just minimize that. We're just going to work on W01 for now. We're going to do the exact same thing that we just did. So we are going to stop the firewall again. So service IP tables stop. Let's be root just in case, because that should have popped up with something unless I spelled something wrong. So say su admin pass service IP tables stop. There we go. That's what we want to see. So be root when you're doing this, just in case. And then we are going to say net server -p9317 again. And then we are going to make sure that it's running. It is running. So now we can go on SO1, log in, and then we're going to say netperf-h w01 port 9317-f capital G, and we're going to redirect that into something called temp test_b now, and we wait. And you're going to see once it's done, we're going to look at both of them to make sure that both of them have output to it and that they're different. So let's say cat temp test B. So we got something, which is good, and we can see the throughput was 0.09. And then let's try A again, and we'll see the throughput was 0.38. So we have a difference, which is perfect. That's all we want to see. But before we go on to grading, remember we have to mount the shared folder. So what we're going to do is right click, go to shared. Let's do it all over again. There we go. We're going to call this shared files. Don't click on anything here. Say OK. Say OK. And then we're going to say mount-t vbox sf. Now, we should already have that folder on there, the mount shared files folder, so that shouldn't be a problem. But just in case, I'm just going to tab through it. I'm going to say mount, and there we go. So it's on there, so now that's mounted. So we should be able to do the grading lab now, and it should go through without any problems. So let's go into Firefox. Let's go into eLearn and get that grading script, and I'll show you what it looks like. But that's pretty much it. It feels like there was a long, it feels like it was a long lab, but it's not actually that bad. Again, if I didn't explain this, if you just went through this on your own and you know what you're doing, you'll find that these labs you can do in like 10 minutes. So it's not crazy. But of course, if you struggle with it, or if there's something that I did that wasn't clear to you, if I went too fast or something like that, just let me know and I would be happy to help you. So let's just say got it. Let's go into UNIX admin. We're going to go into Dropbox. Scroll down to installing. Save that. Now we know that we don't even have to unzip it on W1. We can just send it straight to the SO1 machine. So SCP downloads, and it's called host. And we're going to send that to root of SO1 10.1.1.20 and to the temp folder. There we go. Let's open up SO1. Clear this. Let's go into the temp folder. We can see the host is there, but we have to unzip it this time. There we go. So now if we say ls, we should see the script right there. So we're just going to run it. Perfect. And now we can SCP the actual report to root of W01 so that we can look through it on the browser. The address is 10.1.1.10, and we'll put it in temp as well. There we go. Okay, so let's Firefox temp, and this is it. So what we're going to see here is that guest additions is installed. Does he want us to put it in fstab? I don't think he told us we were supposed to do that. It says we don't have to do that. But okay, basically the host name says SO1. What it's showing us here is that the man pages are working because what it's going to do is man ls wc-l, and it checks the word count of man ls, and it should be 250 lines. So that's really good. This is part B, guest extension. This is the one that I'm not sure about. Basically what we're seeing is that shared files is mounted. So you know that we installed guest additions or extensions, which is great. We know that it's mounted, which is great. You can see that through df. The only thing that we don't see is the fstab. Now, the fstab, he doesn't tell us to do that. So I'm guessing that you don't want to see fstab in here. But if for some reason your teacher gives you a mark and says it's like 3 out of 4 points, and he says, oh, I don't see it in fstab, I can tell you right now, it doesn't tell you anything about making sure that it's mounted, because it says do not have the system mount this automatically at boot, so you would not put something in fstab. So I'm guessing that's what he's checking, to make sure that there's nothing in fstab with that line. So you should get 4 points for that. Then part C is build software from source. He's just making sure that netperf works. So it works because it tells us that it's there. And then part D is making sure that we can read both of those files that we created, which is test A and test B. So here is our test A, which is 0.38 throughput, and right here was test B, which is 0.09. So that is how you get a perfect lab. Once again, the only thing that I'm questioning is this, which is the fstab, because it says fstab, but it should, I think, say that fstab should not have an entry, which we didn't put it in because it doesn't tell us to make sure it's automatically booting at start. So if you did get an error against that and it says it has to be there, I would just fight that. I would just be like, it says not to do it automatically at start. I don't see anywhere where it says we had to put in fstab. So, but if you have to put in fstab, you should know how to do it. It's pretty easy. If you have any questions again about this, let me know. But thank you for watching the video. Sorry it took so long. I will see you in the next video, and good luck on your test. Bye.